was such an out of control way to live. Like, I had no power in any of that. Self-care is not a prescription to a problem. It is a daily necessity, period. Yes, there is a Notion template. Sometimes things don't actually fall by the wayside because we're busy, but it's actually because we're afraid. Are we recording? Have you ever felt like no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you set intentions, life just pulls you in a million different directions and it always ends up going to shit? You probably start the year with goals, structure, motivation, and then somewhere around now-ish, you get completely off track. Your calendar is filling up, your priorities start to feel like a blur, and then you get stuck in the cycle of constantly just reacting and going through the motions instead of living intentionally based on the goals that you set or the structure that you had at the beginning of the year. Honestly, I used to constantly feel like I was reacting. It was like whatever was coming at me, I'm just dealing with it, and as the cards fall, I will play the hand that's dealt to me. But that was such an out of control way to live. Like, I had no power in any of that. Like, I was just giving my power away every single day. I was giving away my control to everything and everyone else. And when I was tired of not living on my terms and living based on everything else that was going on around me, I realized I needed a really good system for myself that kept me grounded and kept me consistent no matter what was going on around me. And that, my friend, is what I'll be sharing with you today. I'm going to give you a quick 7-day reset. You can do them all in one day if you're a super overachiever, but over the course of 7 days, if you complete one of these things, you will be in such a more grounded, structured, focused, and motivated place, just like you were at the beginning of the year. It just kind of gives you back that power that you have been giving away to the life that is happening around you. I'm going to give you a step-by-step approach to resetting your focus, your time, and your habits. And of course, yes, there is a Notion template. Because I don't want you to just have a plan. I want you to have an entire system that supports you through this reset. That way you can sustain all of this progress long term. You are in the driver's seat, not the ups and downs of life, not the situations around you, but you. You are in the driver's seat. How you choose to navigate the circumstances of your life is truly what makes the biggest difference in where you end up. The power of choice is actually something that really scares us as humans. We don't like making decisions. We don't like being wrong. And so we fear making choices that we aren't sure of the outcome. And because of that fear, our default is to fall back on whatever is comfortable for us. And so if that comfort zone, if that default is consistently working all day long, having no boundaries, putting others' needs before your own, saying yes to everything, then yeah, you're gonna go back to that when things start to feel like this is different. I'm not sure exactly what's on the other side of this change that I want to make in my life and this new thing that I'm trying to work towards. Sometimes things don't actually fall by the wayside because we're busy, but it's actually because we're afraid. We're afraid of being wrong. We're afraid of failing. But what if you were always right? What if that feeling that you have that says, I want this, I want to do this thing, I want to have this thing, whatever it is for you, what if that was right? And what if you just allowed yourself to have it and that you didn't allow anything to get in the way of that? Today's episode is a moment of reflection, reset, and realignment with that vision, with that desire that you have for yourself. We are halfway through Q1 of 2025. So take the time to do these 7 steps so that you can make the biggest impact on this month, this quarter, and this year. So if you've been feeling a little off track and you are ready to realign and refocus with the things that truly matter to you most, I hope you'll stick around and let's get into it. The very first part of any reset is defining your priorities. We have to start here because if we don't, we could be focusing on the completely wrong thing, and then our plan and our structure that we create is going to be so off and unsupportive. One of the biggest reasons that people get overwhelmed, stressed, or burned out is because they're spending too much time on the things that don't actually matter to them. They don't align with their values, they don't align with their priorities, and that starts to create this like friction and tension within the body. And that starts to feel like an entrapment almost in your mind and physically. And then you start to get overwhelmed, you start to feel stressed, you start to feel angry, resentful, and then you burn out. But the beginning of the year sort of brings this fresh slate energy, and people really thrive and feed off of that because they want that clear slate. They don't want to keep doing the things or prioritizing the things that they have always defaulted to. Part of this 7-day reset has to be bringing that same fresh slate energy, which is defining your priorities. So, day one, step one of the 7-day reset is to define your priorities. Define, I would say, 1, 2, or 3 max. This is going to act as your foundation for the rest of this reset and the rest of your year. Take a few moments to reflect on what is most important to you right now. Is it family? Is it your career? Is it your finances? Is it health? Instead of just listing every single specific goal, let's go broad with this and choose the general area that you want to focus on. This is going to be extremely important because every single decision that you make should come back to these 3 priorities. How you spend your time, what you say yes and no to, all of it should filter through these 3 core priorities. And if you have less than 3, great. The more focused, the better. And once you've defined those 3 priorities, make sure you write them down somewhere, put them in the Notion template, have a space for these to live so that you can see them frequently. This is not something that we want to fall by the wayside. This is not something that we want to just write down once and forget about. This needs to be something that we have in our face every single day, multiple times a day. And that is not an exaggeration. Day 2, step 2 of the reset is tracking your time and where you are spending it. Now that you have decided what actually matters to you and what your priorities are for the next year ahead, we need to see if your time is actually reflecting this being a priority to you. Because I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of us do not realize how much time we waste or that we spend doing other things that are not in alignment with our values and our priorities. I know for me, when I was working in a job that was extremely demanding and I had a lot of responsibilities, I would say that my health or my family was a priority, but my actions were not reflecting that. From the outside looking in, somebody would have been like, the only thing she cares about is her career. Period. So day 2, step 2 is really simple, and I want you to be super diligent about this. Make sure that you are actually tracking every single thing that you do for the next 24 hours. If you start scrolling on social media, track that. If you're checking your email, track that. If you're working, track that. If you stop for lunch, track that. Make sure that you are tracking what you're doing and how long it is taking you, and try to be as natural as possible as you can with this. Sometimes when we feel like we're under a microscope, we can start to feel like, oh, well, I need to not scroll so much, or I need to not spend so much time sitting here looking at the wall. Like, no, do what you would normally do as naturally as possible as you can, knowing that you're tracking your time. No one is going to look at this and grade this and be like, you are a horrible person. How could you spend so much time doing X, Y, and Z? It's not about that. It's really for you to recognize where you're spending your time and how much time you're spending doing this. It's almost like when you look at your bank statement and you realize how much money you spend on food, like
$26,000 for one dinner.
Okay, no, this can be explained. Tell them about the sides
I
you
ordered
ordered.
the sides, so...
Sides?
Yeah.
Sides?
$26,000 worth of sides?
that is the moment of realization that I need you to have here. How much time are you spending in meetings? How much time are you spending on social media? How much work are you doing that doesn't actually need to be done? Where are you spinning your wheels where you don't need to be? After you've tracked those 24 hours, I want you to start to match up. For each thing that you have done throughout the entire day, does it match up to one of your top 3 priorities? And if it doesn't, do you actually need to be doing that? Or how can you start to adjust the time that you're spending on that. If it doesn't align with your priorities, that is okay. Don't judge yourself or get hard on yourself about it. The point of this activity is to bring awareness to where you're spending your time and whether it aligns with those values or not. All right, moving on to day 3, part 3, which is structuring your time effectively. So now that you have defined where your time is going and what you are spending your time on most, we need to categorize it and restructure it. Something I find extremely helpful when it comes to structuring my time is using a tool like the Eisenhower Matrix to start to really categorize things by urgency and importance. If you have something that you do on a regular basis that is not urgent and not important, why are we spending time on it? The more you can categorize your daily routine and tasks into the categories of urgent, important, not urgent, important, not important, but urgent, and then not important, not urgent, it will be so helpful to see that visually, what exactly you can eliminate from your schedule. Because one of the things that feels a little bit difficult when you're starting to change your routines, your schedules, your habits, just your life in general, is finding time and finding ways to cut out the things that you have so naturally and so consistently done in the past. Looking at the things that you do regularly in these 4 different quadrants are really going to help you to decide what can be cut out. What boundaries can I put in place, or what rules, structures can I put in place that allow me to spend less time doing things that are not important? So if you're using the Notion template, there are already 4 quadrants available for you. If you are using just a sheet of paper, if you just draw a cross or like a plus sign on a big sheet of paper and then label the 4 different quadrants, start to categorize your different tasks from day 2, and then circle the things that you would like to commit to eliminating from your current routine. Another thing that I feel like comes up for this is you actually have to think about what category each of the things that you do during the day, what they fall into. So some things might feel super urgent, or some things might feel super important, but when you are comparing it to your priorities in life, you start to realize like, oh, this is a completely different lens that I'm looking through. Put on your priority goggles, glasses, and look at your schedule through that lens, through the lens of your 3 priorities, and decide, are these things urgent? Are these things important in regard to the priorities that I say I have for my life? Because if you are not looking at everything through the lens of your priorities, personally and professionally, these will become distractions for you. These are the things that will throw you off track and keep you imbalanced. These are the things that will burn you out. So make sure that you are very, very clear on the categories that these actually go in based on your priorities, not someone else's priorities, not what the world wants, not what your boss wants. What do you want? What are your priorities, and how do these things actually fit into that picture? Okay. Day 4, step 4 of the reset is normally where I lose people. Why? It's not a worker task. It's not a do this step by step assignment. It is about giving back to yourself. It is self-care. It is about being mindful and bringing self-care into your daily routine. Now, the reason why I lose people is because people think that they don't need the self-care. They think that, oh, once I'm burned out enough, then I'll make time for self-care. Once I feel bad, then I can prioritize myself a little bit. But that is not how we should be working. That is not how we should be operating. We should not be self-caring as a fix to a problem. We should be self-caring so that the problem never occurs. The reason we get so disconnected from ourselves is because we don't take time for ourselves. We don't know who we are. We just let the world tell us what we're supposed to be doing, what's important, what our priorities are, what we value. And then we get to this point where we're like, what the just happened? This is not who I am. What am I doing? Why am I spending so much time on this? Why am I so stressed? Why do I feel awful? And it's because you've been neglecting yourself for so long. Self-care is not a prescription to a problem. It is a daily necessity, period. And self-care does not have to mean going to the spa, taking this luxurious bath, going out to a fancy dinner. It doesn't have to be all of that. Self-care can simply be at the end of your day reflecting on how did you feel? What worked today? What didn't work today? What are you grateful for? And just answering those questions for yourself, reflecting on those questions allows you to evaluate where you are at. It allows you to connect to who you are. It allows you to connect to what you want and what's working for you and what's not. If you neglect your feelings and your thoughts about your life, you are never going to find the happiest version, the most fulfilled version of your life. So, day 4 is about choosing a daily self care practice that you can do and give to yourself every single day. What is that going to be? Is it going to be the reflection questions that I gave you earlier? You can set those up in a journal or a Notion document, and then every single day you just answer those 4 questions. Is it going to be a morning walk? Is it going to be a meditation? It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is an intentional space and time where you can connect to you. The more you take care of yourself, the more you will show up better in every single area of your life. The more you will remember what your priorities are. The more you will know exactly what to do in every single moment. The more you connect with yourself, the less likely you are to end up in this situation where you've completely neglected your priorities. You've completely lost track of your goals and the things that you wanted to do in your life. If you take even 5 minutes a day to reconnect to you, those priorities, those goals, those desires that you have for your life are going to stay at the forefront much more easily. Okay, you guys, day 5 is reviewing, adjusting, and setting new goals. You may have already set goals for your year, for your quarter, whatever, but with this newfound vantage point, after you have looked at your priorities, looked at your current schedule, decided how you're going to be spending your time, I want you to review, adjust, and add any new goals that feel important to you right now. Sometimes after doing this process, we realize that goals that we set at the beginning of the year are no longer important to us. Sometimes we feel like maybe this goal is more important to me than I thought it was, so I need to adjust my milestones or the things that I'm working on for it to be more of a priority, to be something that I'm executing on more often. So I want you to do a full review of all of your current goals, look at all of your different milestones, make adjustments as necessary, add any new goals and milestones that need to be added, and then make sure that you are planning those different milestones on your calendar to ensure that you are actually working towards getting those things done. If you have not already watched the goal setting and milestone tracking video, I have a bunch of videos linked down below on how I set goals and track milestones. These are going to be extremely helpful for you if you have not already set goals or if you have not listed out your milestones, which is a key piece of being able to accomplish your goals and stay consistent. Day 6, step 6 is creating supportive habits. I have a full video on habits as well. If you want to check that out, that is also linked down below in the description. But if habits that are supportive of your goals or your priorities, your values are not built into your schedule, you are constantly going to be fighting with the things that you naturally are doing. We all have habits. Sometimes they are supportive of our goals and where we're going in life, and sometimes they're unsupportive and they kind of are at odds with the things that we're trying to do. So you really want to make sure that you are defining what are the habits that I could be implementing or working on that are going to help me get closer to the version of me that I want to be, to the goals that I want to accomplish. what are the habits that I need to be doing on a daily, weekly basis that will contribute to my success? Using the habit tracker inside of Notion has been such a game changer for me. Every single day, a new set of habits pops up for me, and it's in my daily to-do list tracker. So I'm looking at all of these things throughout my day, and it's just reinforcing to me, these are your habits, these are your priorities that you want to be working towards. And every single time I go into my to-do list or I look up something else, my habits are there in my face reminding me, don't forget to drink your water. Don't forget to get your workout in. Don't forget to eat for energy. Don't forget to do your meditation. I have these habits that I have listed to be supportive of the version that I really want to be on a daily basis. And then it also has this whole entire habit streak view where I can see how consistent I've been. And the benefit of having that is that you don't want to break your streak once it's like this ego thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't break the streak of check boxes. Like I love the blue check boxes are like so satisfying. I don't want to break it. So you kind of just like want to keep that going, and that builds more and more motivation over time for you to consistently work towards those habits. The key with habits and building new ones especially is not perfection. It's just consistency as often as possible. And over time, it will become more natural and more just part of who you are. But these small habits are what lead to bigger, longer lasting change. So these are going to be so important for you to have defined and for it to be somewhere that you can see often to remind yourself what you are working towards. And then day 7, step 7 of this process is setting up a structure that is going to help you maintain long-term sustainable success. Life is always going to throw curveballs at you. It's just going to happen. It happens to all of us. And creating balance in life or having a life that is structured around your priorities and your goals doesn't mean that these things will never happen. It means that you have the ability to get back on track more easily when they do. So for this last step, I want you to define a schedule, a structure for yourself for check-ins. I like to do my check-ins on a weekly basis, every Sunday night or Monday morning if I've had like a long Sunday or something. I will do a weekly check-in with myself. I'm looking at my goals, I'm evaluating my routines and my habits. I'm basically going through this entire process. I'm looking at how I spent my time last week. I'm looking at what I have on my schedule for this week. And I'm deciding, how does this align with my priorities, and am I fitting in my priorities? Am I making my priorities a priority? If weekly feels like too much for you, you could make this a monthly thing. I actually have monthly planning sessions that I do every single month here live on YouTube, totally free. So make sure you are subscribed so that you know when those are happening. But the goal here is to regularly assess where you are at and to be able to adjust accordingly. When you have a system that adapts with you and allows you to kind of just fall back into the things that are supporting you and supporting your priorities, supporting your goals, supporting the life that you want to create, you are so much more likely to stay consistent with those things. I do not want you to live a life where you're setting the exact same New Year's resolution every single year. Our resolutions should not be a time where we're like, well, didn't get it last year, maybe this year it'll happen. Life is not meant to be a hamster wheel of setting intentions, forgetting that they exist, getting to the end of the year, beating yourself up for forgetting that they existed, and then setting the same intentions again and again and again. We should be setting resolutions every single year that feel exciting and new and fresh for us. And it's not even just about the new year, it's about any time we have a new desire or a new thing that we want to do in life. We should be able to feel confident in ourselves that when we desire something, we will get it. We will work, we will take the steps to get there, and we will show up and we will do the things that are going to be supportive of these things that we want in life, not that we're going to neglect them and forget about them. So creating this system isn't just for tracking purposes or for documentation. It's really to allow you to continue moving forward and progressing forward to accomplish the things that you want. It is inevitable as long as you stay consistent and get back on track. Anytime you find yourself veering off, it's okay. It's going to happen. Life is going to happen. You being more intentional about how you spend your time, how in alignment with priorities you are, is going to make a big, big difference. If you have made it this far, I am so, so happy for you, and I cannot wait to see how your 7-day or 7-step reset goes for you, depending on how quickly you want to do all of this. Please let me know in the comments, what was the biggest takeaway in these 7 steps, or what do you think is going to be the most impactful? I would absolutely love to hear from you and cheer you on and create more videos that are going to be more supportive of the things that you are actually working on. If you are new to Notion, or you just want to grab the template that we used here today, feel free to check out all of the templates that I have available in the link in the description. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. As always, it means the world to me to have you here. I am wishing you well on the rest of your week, and until next time, take care.